Hey folks, welcome to WP Roundtable, episode 165. My name is Kyle Maurer, coming to you from Jackson, Michigan, working on a place called Sandhills Development with my friend Jeff Large. Is that how you pronounce it, Jeff?
Yeah, it's definitely not large or anything else.
Sometimes I just envy people like yourself with the names that like you can't get it wrong.
Yeah, well, but people do. People ask you how to spell it and stuff. I'm like, how big or huge? Like, come on, people. It's really not that difficult.
Yeah, super great, super great. There have been more than one episodes of this show where I forgot to ask correct pronunciation before going live and got it wrong.
It
And
happens.
it just I burn over that. I'm so sad. But that's the past. This is the present, and we're talking with Jeff Large from Come Alive Creative from Grand Rapids, Michigan, very close by, only a couple-hour drive.
True.
I'm excited to learn a little bit more about everything that you've been doing, Jeff, everything you're doing now, and everything that you're interested in. Before we do, let's talk about our quick picks of the week. Mine this episode is WordCamp. Central is looking for new mentors. So if you go to make.wordpress.org/community, you'll see a recent blog post published by Cami, who describes their need for more WordCamp mentors. And there's an application to fill out to apply to become a mentor for other WordCamp organizers, which I naturally did because it's something I'm interested in doing. I've been a WordCamp organizer for some years now. I've been involved in a number of different camps and have a passion for just helping others succeed with these events, which I'll probably end up attending myself anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's something that's super cool. And if you have experience organizing other events and are interested in helping other people out in this way, this is a great way to give back and just make a difference for people. And they have not even close to the number of mentors that they really need. In fact, when I was a lead organizer for a couple of years, I didn't even have one, despite their goal of having a mentor assigned to every lead organizer.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's my quick pick. What have you got, Jeff?
What are the rules for a quick pick?
It should be something that you think is worth sharing.
Well then, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna go pocket real quick and see what. Let's do. Oh, I'm gonna share a book. Can I share a book? Is that legal?
That is perfectly legal. There are no fines applied.
I recently finished Out on the Wire. This is geared more for anybody that's telling stories. So it's pretty cool for copywriters and that type of thing. But specifically, it's talking about it in audio. And the thing I didn't know when I purchased it is that it's a graphic novel.
What?
It's like I bought it and I opened it and I'm like, what is this? But it's this big graphic novel. And if you're familiar with the audio space, this person, Jessica Abel, she interviews a bunch of the greats like Guy Raz and basically all these people from like a lot of the shows that you hear on NPR, Radio Lab and Planet Money and all these things about just how do you craft good story, and specifically how do you craft good story with audio. And that was a really, really great read. And even the previous language arts teacher in me loved it from a story standpoint and thought it had a lot of application. So I definitely would recommend that book.
I'm totally intrigued. That sounds like an amazing read.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I liked it.
Okay, I like it. What do you got? What do you got in the glass today, Jeff? What are we drinking?
I told you this is you can't read it here. It's Rock Bottom Brewery. And it's El Jefe, but it looks like the Jeff in Spanish. So that's why it's one of my favorite glasses. I prefer a beer you cannot see through. So I went with Short's Cup of Joe Coffee Cream Stout, which is never a bad choice.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, you got to represent the Michigan beer scene, which is amazing.
Yeah. What about you?
Right now, I've got some water, of course, in my WordCamp Grand Rapids water bottle. And in my WordCamp Grand Rapids glass, I've got some Founders. Got to go with the Grand Rapids beer.
Well, what year did that come out? Did they make the glass?
This was 2014.
I don't know. That might have been pre me going to any of the Grand Rapids WordCamps. I feel like I missed out. I want a sweet mug. Or a sweet glass.
Yes. Yes. I've had a lot of other WordPress glasses in my cupboard, but for some reason they seem to get broken. And this is one that has lasted.
I'm glad. I'm glad that one represents.
Well, cheers, Jeff. Let's
Yeah.
get started talking about your background a little bit. First, I want to know, set the stage with what your aspirations were when you were younger. So let's go back before your audio days and internet days, and before your career was on track, and before your family. But when you were younger and you had some plan for your future, some vision of what you would ultimately do with your life, and a little bit of motivation to get something accomplished, where were you at in that time, and what was that vision, and how'd you get started?
High school. The short answer was high school. I really, really enjoyed video. And so I was doing a lot of the behind the scenes with video. I was editing. I worked for a local cable station. It was like the local Rockford Cedar Springs cable station. And I taught people from the community how to do it. I was in high school at the time. They had like a telecommunications course. And so I was doing the actual camera work. I was doing the editing and all of those kind of things. And that, I never wanted to go to college. Did not care for it. I thought there was smarter ways to go about being attacked by babies or something. Or
I think there's a couple cats fighting in my basement.
Okay.
I apologize.
It happens. It happens to the best of us. So what the heck was I saying? Oh, and then so the video and stuff, the video. And I got to a point that I got offered a job to work on like the crew for Fox 17. And it was in that moment that I was like, I don't want to work nights and weekends for my entire life. And so I jumped into school. I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to do. I was kind of debating between youth ministry and teaching. And then I ended up going the teaching route. And so I just went to school for that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Have you always been in the Grand Rapids area?
Yep. We grew up, specifically, I grew up kind of in Belmont, Rockford area, and then have always been in Grand Rapids. Now my family, we live in the Northview side, or kind of the northeast side of town.
Sure. So you did go to school. You went the teaching route, as you say. Mm-hmm. What did that develop into? Did you actually work professionally as a teacher post graduation?
Yeah. I was gonna say I have. I just have always enjoyed working with kids and hanging out with kids, and so like I volunteered. I volunteered really since like middle school, leading young adult groups, like kind of church Bible study groups, and that continued on through high school and into college. And by the time college rolled around, I worked for I think 3 or 4 years at Mel Trotter, which is a homeless stay place, support different homeless people and programs and things. And specifically, so the women, there's a men's side of the building and a women's side of the building. And there was a woman who was the director for the kids, and then she would work during the day. And then basically when I got done with classes, I would go and run their program at night. And so I was always working with kids in some capacity, and then did youth ministry for a long time too when I was older. Went through school, got my bachelor's in language arts in elementary ed. So I was certified kindergarten through 8th grade, and got a job, started as a parapro, which basically meant I was a teacher sidekick for a year. And then I got my own classroom. I taught language arts that's like reading, writing, basically. I taught that for, I think, 4 years or so. And then I taught technology to pre-K to 8th grade for another 2 or 3. And so as of right now, I'm about, I think, 2 or 3 classes shy of my master's in language arts with a secondary ed emphasis. And then otherwise resigned about 4 years ago now to do what I'm doing with the agency, like the stuff I'm doing today. So that's kind of the overview of that.
Awesome. Great background. Yeah. So let's talk about that transition into not just a different industry, but entrepreneurship in that industry. So you had an interest in technology. You're passionate about audio, helping other people. Like, what's the jump here? Were you doing things on the side that kind of caught your interest?
Yeah, I'm the type of personality. I'm very driven. If you look at, I talk about this in other places, like on my website and stuff, but strength, I'm a big fan of the strength finders tests. And if I broke it down on like just a basic level, I research a ton, I learn a ton. And then once I figure out a direction of where I want to go, I just start doing a lot. Like I just take enjoyment out of working and being productive and doing things and using my talents well and trying to be a good steward of what I have. And so it started on early, like in high school. I usually had at least 2 or 3 jobs happening. In college, I always had two at least because one would kind of be a fallback. One was always like a fun job, and then one was like, this is my steady. I know I'm going to have good income. Um, it probably true entrepreneurship started with the board game thing. I think it was about 2012. My wife and my cousin and I started a board game publishing company. So you can see a bunch of the games behind us. These aren't ours per se. They're friends of ours in different companies. We've been big board game fans for a long while. So we went through the whole process of getting a game designer, signing them, trying to get the game published, going through Kickstarter. And we didn't end up publishing any games, but we ended up making a decent amount of money, a couple $1,000s at least, from running a podcast that we had with the board game thing, which originally started just as a marketing tool, but it kind of became the catalyst of the company, where people looked at us more as a source of media than they did a board game producer. And so that was interesting. I think it was, what year is it? 2018? I don't know. A couple of years back. I don't remember what year exactly. We got bought out by my cousin because my wife and I were like, we just don't want to do this anymore. So that was kind of happening simultaneous to Come Alive Creative starting. And that transition, I guess the only other thing that kind of is relevant now that I think about it is I've been a musician for a long time too. And so I've played nothing huge. I didn't like go on national tours or anything, but I played in Michigan and then in the Midwest a bit with a couple different bands, played as a solo singer songwriter. And there's a big piece of that requires a certain amount of business savvy, where that's kind of the reason that I got into web development ever. Like the first website I built was for myself back in like 2004 with Dreamweaver or something because I needed a way to promote the band. And so I did that, and we did different things along those lines. And just between that, having the video background, the audio background, now all of a sudden this need to do web development and stuff mattered. And how do you market or promote yourself? And so all these things, it was a lot of, at the time, we're just like, hey, this is fun, I'll do it. But I think it all led up to basically where I was. And with teaching, we had some transitions in our administration, where the direction of the school wasn't really in line. I'm not going to say that they were wrong by any means, but just what I believed was best for the students. There was certain friction that we had with each other. Being a teacher is just hard in general. You're away a lot. There's a ton of grading to do. You work a lot there, and then you end up bringing a lot of work home, and it just wasn't really the ideal lifestyle that we wanted for our family. And I was doing web development on the side, where it was basically me doing the dev and one in particular, but two different friends of mine were helping with the design portion, and then I would do the dev portion. And my wife and I, through talking about it, we're like, okay, we're gonna wait basically whatever timeline how this plays out. Like I said, we're going into year 5, so roughly 4 years ago, we were gonna wait one last year before trying to jump into entrepreneurship or starting the agency altogether. And we just ended up going for it. And at the time, I had one existing retainer client, and I was getting paid like $35 an hour. And so we had enough savings basically to last us about, I think, 4 to 6 months if everything tanked. And we're like, all right, let's go for it. Worst case scenario, I go back to teaching. And we're still riding it out. So it's working so far.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, congratulations on at least that accomplishment, which you should reflect on and just appreciate now and then, not take for granted how, like, what a blessing that's been.
Yeah.
That was one of my questions really, was going to be, if you hadn't gotten bitten by this bug on the side, this passion for doing these other things, like, would you still be teaching today?
Oh yeah, probably. I have really no reason. I love the kids. And so I still find opportunities to work with youth. Like, we have some friends that are youth ministers and stuff. And like my wife and I, we just went and helped out with a retreat that a good friends of ours were having the other weekend. I don't know why I wouldn't. There's no reason not to keep doing it. And right now I still teach a lot. It's just in a different capacity. Like this time it's with business owners or entrepreneurs, or like you were saying, even with the WordCamp thing, like I'll take on mentees on purpose if I have the bandwidth to be able to do it, depending on the workload. And I like giving back in that capacity. I love working with people, and watching others find those aha moments and things is very enjoyable for me. I like it a lot.
I appreciate how much in your story you're talking about what you love, what you like doing, and so much throughout you're saying, well, I liked teaching, so I went into teaching, and I liked board games, so I did this board game, and I liked audio, and I liked web development, and all these other things. You do what you love. So many other stories that I talk to other people about, so many other backgrounds that I pull out of guests. It's more reactionary, more like, these are the opportunities that came my way. This is what I needed to do to support my family. This is the most interesting thing that I guess I had. These are the skills that I happened to develop based on the early jobs that I held. But you sound so much more deliberate and very fortunate to have been able to pursue professionally your personal interests and passions.
I chuckle because from a lot of the stuff that I've read about really good entrepreneurs, is what you just described as an awesome talent to have, to be able to see an opportunity, to identify something that maybe a lot of other people miss, and often a lot of other people miss, and then capitalize on it. And I laugh because that's something I suck at. Like, I run the agency, I'm the owner and stuff, but in terms of being able to always spot what's going on, like, I just research too much. I pursue information too much to really just reactionarily look at a thing and go, oh, right there, got to go that direction now. Like, I miss those. And so there's certain, you say these things, and there's a certain piece of me that envies that a little bit, because I know I'm not very good at it. But I think it's interesting to describe it that way, because I would also argue the opposite, where, no, maybe not for me so much. It's like I sort of just, it's bigger principles. Like, I just love learning, period. And so I think certain things fascinate me. Like, I have, say, for example, one of our clients right now is in real estate. I don't really know anything about real estate, but the people that he's talking to, it's these other leaders, like on his specific show that we're editing. And as I go through these episodes, it's like, one of the last episodes that he has, it's not live yet or anything. He was interviewing this guy that was responsible for all this architecture in France and in Chicago and in Philadelphia. And it's just so fascinating, where I'm never going to do anything with real estate or architecture, but listening to other people talk about it's really neat. And so I love more of the higher level stuff. And yeah, board games are cool, and yeah, audio is cool, but at the end of the day, work is work, and it's still good. You still get burnt out on it. Like, I mean, audio sometimes still sucks. I had an episode I did the other day that it was wretched. Like, the person said at least 3 million times, and getting through it was a complete drag. And so I definitely don't love my job every day, but I kind of feel that way with what I mean. It's just, it's ask and you do it and you get it done. So try to find the enjoyment where you can.
Yeah. Well, that's a cool perspective, I think. And you do sound like somebody who has been fortunate enough to be able to do a lot of things that you enjoy professionally, and make a living doing it. That's cool. That there are so many people that I know personally who pursue their passions and end up, just having to get a job and do whatever works, not what they're interested in, but what actually works and pays the bills. But so to be able to do that is something to appreciate. And
I'll interject while you collect your thoughts for a second. Don't get me wrong, we've ran out of money too. Like, that's definitely happened to us, where it was literally to the point where I started applying. We had one time after the first year, I started applying to teaching positions again, and then it was during that time frame, all of a sudden we got flooded with a bunch of work. And then I've had one other instance where things began to get tight, and we, again, like, fate or grace or mercy or whatever you want to call it, came through. I mean, I always feel like I'm doing everything in my power to make sure that this is successful, but there's still that sort of unknown element where things need to align that are outside of my control. And definitely a cat. Definitely a cat. But
sorry.
so
usually it's noisy here.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Yeah. And so it's like, I don't want to paint the wrong picture. I'm 100% grateful for the opportunities that I've been given, but there's plenty of days where a normal 9-to-5 job would be a million times easier and more reliable than what I feel like I'm doing now. So there's definite trade-offs.
It's always intimidated me, or I've always had an aversion to following through very seriously with my personal passions. Like whatever I am interested in on the side, it's music as well. I'm a singer-songwriter too, and have a number of hobbies. But the thought of like taking them farther and getting serious about them, I've never thought that I would like that. To me, it feels like I would ruin it. I would ruin a good thing if I began to take it seriously.
What do you mean?
Singing
Like
and songwriting and performing would not be fun anymore if I was doing it to earn a living.
That would be tough. It depends on which one it is. Singing, songwriting for a living, like that is super, super difficult. Now, I have not heard your stuff, so I'm not going to say you couldn't do it, but that would be hard.
It's terrible. So I couldn't.
But I mean, like anything else? Like what else comes to mind besides that you feel like you might ruin?
Oh, brewing. I like home brewing beer. That's fun. That's a pastime, and the microbrewery scene is hot right now. But would I still enjoy it if I did it professionally? I don't know. Filmmaking. But would I still enjoy that if I took it past the small little family hobby that it is? I don't know. Would it? Have you experienced in your many ventures? Some of your passions kind of waning or being diluted or losing their appeal once you took them a little more seriously?
Yep. Yeah. Board gaming's a huge one. For me, not as much. I got sick of it. I got sick of it from a work standpoint, but it really killed it for my wife. My wife and I used to play, like when we've been married now for a while. She's going to punch me in the face if I don't remember. Maybe like 7 years or so. We've been together for a long time. We've been together for like 15 years, but we've been married for like 8 or 7 or something. I don't remember now. Now that I'm live, I'm going to blame it on being live and the extra added stress and pressure. But we'll be soulmates forever, so it's okay. And we played board games like every night when we first were married, and we played board games a ton during the first like year or two of running the company. But by the end of it, she just got so sick of it. She got super sick of the podcast because we were always talking the crossover. The focus of our podcast was board games and business. And so we'd be looking at like who are the designers, the publishers, the manufacturers, the distribution networks, like everything that made it actually possible for a really good board game to get created and sent to you. And she got really burnt out. And still to this day, we get together with friends now, maybe, I don't even know, once or twice a month to play board games. We'll do board game nights, where before it was much more frequent. And so like now my son, he's 12, he's going on 13, like he's the main person I play with in terms of the different games and things. But unfortunately, it kind of killed it for her. And so, yes, I've seen that happen firsthand, and it's a sad thing. It's
a real danger. I mean, what do you, if you knew personally somebody who was exploring something that was a personal passion, saying, I'm thinking about, quitting my job and just brewing professionally, singing professionally, or podcasting professionally, something that is a hobby now and doing it very seriously full time. Would you have any words of wisdom for them to caution about this danger?
The first thing would be like, I don't know. I mean, the first reality of it is, who am I to say? I have no idea their situation. I have no idea what they're called to. I think if we're honest with ourselves, though, at least it's subjective, but what I've experienced is like, I know in my gut the things that I need to do in the moment, when I give them the proper time, when I give it the proper time to think about it, or the proper time to pray about it. And in the moment, if I'm looking ahead, like if I'm planning like 6 months from now, is this agency going to be a good idea? I can't answer that, but I can tell you what the good and what the best next step is for whatever situation right now. And so I think we all kind of know what the truth is. And the reality is we just need to listen to that voice more. From more of just a general perspective, to kind of more directly answer your question, I've always been an advocate that don't go start a business. Don't go follow the passion project. I don't really consider myself that person. I think it's a healthy reminder for me to hear you say that about what you're listening to in my journey, because I usually just want to be further along. I don't feel like I've arrived yet, and I want to be there really bad. And it's been a very slow process for me to learn that this journey is wonderful and amazing, that I need to appreciate every moment, even the hard times and the good times, or wherever I might be at. And so it just, a lot of the stuff that we see, I think, in the business space and the entrepreneur space, that speaks to this, like, follow your passion, make $100,000. All it takes is this e-course. And like, no, like, that's such a rarity for people to really find. It's a lot of hard work in order to get here. And it's just not always what it's cracked up to be. It's a lot more about, what does your audience need? Like, who is your audience? What do they need? What pain points are there? Is there even if those things line up, is there a market there? And all this stuff. And I had to learn that. I learned that probably a more backwards way, where I got fortunate enough to make what I was doing work long enough for me to continue on and to get to the point that I'm at. But I can't say I'd do it any different. I'm happy that I went about it the way that I did, and that I've been able to learn the lessons that I have. But when I give that type of advice to somebody else, it's like, I don't know. I don't think it's all it's cracked up to be. And I think you got to be a certain kind of personality to understand what you're really getting into, to go after a venture full force like that, to go all in and really, really burn your bridges in order to only have one out, which is forward. So,
oh man. Yeah. Scary thought. Let's talk a little bit about your business now.
Okay.
We only just, you mentioned kind of in passing a little bit of the things that you learned when you left teaching to start doing this full time, and you had that scary period of just enough savings and let's see if this works. Set the scene a little bit, if you will. What was your business like then? That was not too many years ago. I want to say you said 4 or 5, 6 years ago.
I'm going into year 5 right now.
Okay.
And
Okay. So set the scene. What was your business like at that time that you thought you were going to be like, and maybe even contrast it a little bit with what it is today, or is it exactly the same?
Gosh, yeah, it's dramatically different today. I'll give the nutshell of kind of the phases, and then you can drill down into whatever interests you most.
Thank you.
In the beginning, it was really non-existent. I taught full time, and that was my job, but I was working on Come Alive Creative. I set it up as, even before I set it up as a business or anything, I just would have people sort of word of mouth go, hey, I know you do web design. Can you help me with these? And so it was a lot of smaller builds, smaller projects. And I would have Aaron and Heather, who are still part of my team now, are the designers. And then I'd go, hey, I need you guys can you draft me up some branding? Can you give me some branding guidelines, or can we make some wireframes based on this stuff, or some logo templates, whatever it is that the client needed? And then based on that, I'd be developing the sites. And it got to a point, like I said, that we thought if I went all in with it, if I actually gave it the time that it needed, we could do something and we could actually live off of it. And so we did. And like I mentioned, I had the one client. It was some work that was like $35 an hour. And at the time that sounded awesome. And so I went for it. And then it was a matter of a bunch of really inefficient ways of trying to find new clients. Started broad. So I was just web design and graphic design, like web development and graphic design is what it was. Like a lot of shops will start as. And so after a while, I realized that wasn't going to work. And I niched down into e-com for a while. And so we had some success with e-commerce. On the side, we were, well, not even on the side, but we were also offering some different things. Like I got right around that time frame, I think my first podcasting, like more podcasting as a marketing type of a thing, as a digital marketing tool, clients at that same time frame. And then it continued on. This was probably beginning of last year. So late 2016, early 2017, e-com started to wane. It was getting to a point that I wasn't very comfortable with it because it was like outpacing my own skill set. And at this point we had developers that I was working with consistently. Like, I mean, these are really solid developers in our community. Like, you know, some of them that I was working with, but it's like, if anything ever happened, I knew if, say, a site exploded, there wasn't going to be a whole lot that I personally could do to fix it. And with me being like the company owner and the PM on the whole thing, being project manager on the whole thing, like that made me a little iffy. So we started to round back out into more higher end custom builds that the developers that I had on board or on the team were still working out, and some digital marketing, which is more of what I was passionate about. I really enjoyed, how does this work from a marketing standpoint? And it was around midway through last year, so mid 2017, that I started thinking about it. I was talking about it. I've always had business coaches kind of guiding me along the way, just people with a lot more experience than me. And through talking to some of my coaches, talking it out with my wife, and reflecting on what was going on, I was like, I think I can do something with this podcasting. And so we essentially dropped about 2/3, 3/4. I don't know, some random percentage or fraction of our services. We gutted the majority of our services and we went all in on podcasting. And then from there, even it's been dramatic changes since we switched over to podcasting to where we are now, where we have a much more clear vision of how we work, what our process is, who is the people or who are the people that we're targeting. We're still tweaking that a bit, but we have a much better idea. And um, I'm very confident that this will work. It's been slow, but I can see the traction now. It was a big hit last year. 2017 was a rough year for us as a business because I made a major transition. It does not look good on paper, but I'm extremely confident. And right now I'm already starting to see the results based on the interest that we're getting, that it was a good move. And I think 2018 is going to play out in our favor because of those necessary changes of almost hitting ground zero again and starting over. But it's been good. It's been a good transition.
Wow. Yeah. Those are some distinct chapters in the business.
Yeah.
Does it feel more like, in retrospect, your changes are driven by the demand from the market, or your unique opportunities that by chance are coming your way and the skills you by chance are developing, or by your personal interests? Any of those three, what does it feel like is the strongest driver of
Yes.
these new chapters?
Yes to all those things. I think they all play an effect, because me personally, I like audio a lot. That's something that will not escape me, like web development could and did at times. I do a lot of our internal stuff. Like I have friends help me with custom work and nuances that sites need. But in general, I know enough dev to build any new site that we need and whatever. And so that's fine. But I like I said, I'm just not comfortable when it starts outpacing me. Audio is the type of thing that I understand well because I've been doing it for so long that I know how to build the systems. I know how to teach people. If anything happened to an existing team member, not that I would want them personally to leave, but the tasks being done themselves, I would know how to replace quickly. And we probably already have systems in place to be able to handle that. So there's the sort of like, can the business function viably and scale and handle hiccups that come along the way? And all those answers are yes. So that made it more dependable in that sense. My personal feelings towards it, I don't care about, I like audio, but I don't care about audio as much. What I care more is how can audio as a medium solve the problems that a lot of the people that our clients are face with maybe they need to, like, common things people will come to us for is they want to be an authority in the space. They want a new way to reach people. They want to build trust with their audiences. And a lot of that exists. And so there are definite pain points in the market that this is addressing and solving. And I think doing a much better job than a lot of the other mediums within the digital marketing space. And then what was the final piece? The random chance was the last option I had.
Sure. Yeah. There are so many opportunities that come our way and you react to them.
Yeah. And that's a big lesson too, where I'm much more liberal at saying no. There's a lot of things that I want to do, and for a long period of my life I would do, and now I'm liberally saying no to a lot of stuff in order to focus what I think I need to focus the most on. Even to the point of, say, my wife and I were looking at like the different people in our lives and who do we truly want our community to be, and we would much rather have fewer deep friendships and relationships with people than a bunch of more surface level ones. And so, like, when we just had some stuff come up today where we're kind of debating, like, we got invited to, but we're like, should we go to that? Do we really see that person being in our life for the long haul? And I hope I don't sound like prudish or something, but it's like, we want to make really true deep investments into the things that we're doing. And we all have the same amount of time and we just can't devote it to everything. And so every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to like 1,000 other things. And it's putting all that in perspective. And for now, this work wise is what I want to do. I think it's what it's worth pursuing, and it's I like it. It's good. I don't know what else to say, I guess, about it.
I like that. I look back on the time that I was helping run an agency, doing a lot like what you're doing. We did that for 5 years, or I did that, and they're still doing that without me, doing just fine. But I would look back and still do, and feel like for a lot of it, I wasn't, slashing my way through the jungle and forging my own path. I was following a trail. I guess I don't even know if this works, or maybe you can follow me here, but the one opportunity kind of led to another. We do one project, build some skills or some proficiency in something, and that would kind of lead to similar projects that we would just say yes to because, yeah, we just did this. And these are the examples that we use in our sales and in our consultations. And naturally, you find yourself doing more of the same, or just following a progression as we build certain skill sets. And the next thing you know, we're known for a certain thing that we didn't plan to be known for, but that's just what happened. And I look back and I struggle a little with, like, how do I feel about that? There are days where I feel like, well, that's fine. Those are the opportunities that came our way and we did the best we could. And other days I'm like, those are years where I could have been more deliberate and forging a direction and put myself in a different position. How do you feel about this balance of, like, deliberately forging your own path or reacting to the opportunities that come your way and just following the trail wherever it goes?
I find I personally would have a really hard time just following the trail wherever it goes, because I did that. Like you were saying, I did that for a while, and I didn't have any skin in the game, so to speak. Like I didn't care about e-commerce. Like we were in the beginning stages of becoming known for, okay, these guys specialize in e-commerce. I personally don't care about e-commerce, and there's a lot of things that kind of piss me off about e-commerce. Like I don't want to know how all the platforms work and the best integrations for this. And there's just people that I know that are amazing, and I would much rather go to that person over there. They know what they're talking about, and I don't like that. Like I have a hard time just going with the tide or floating along or whatever. I'd rather pursue something worth pursuing. I'd rather fail at pursuing something worth pursuing than just rolling with it. And
there's like a powerful quote right there. Somewhere.
I'm not trying to. It just happens. Like I said, like you just take these people. Like it's important to niche down. I really believe in niching in a lot of different ways. And there's a lot of people even I've talked to recently. Like we can pick people out of our community. Take somebody like Sarah Dunn. She's been doing a lot with looking at where should I niche and being very transparent about that process and how she's failed in certain ways and how she's won in certain ways, and picking this thing that could arguably be sort of obscure, like SEO for wedding professionals. Like I wouldn't come up with that, but she's found it and it seems to be working, and she's learning a ton. And the only way that she's going to progress it is if she digs into it. And I made that sort of joke before where it's, you got to burn the bridges, but I'm dead serious. Like if you want something to work, you can't have an out. And so when you have other people relying on you, it becomes a little more, it's more difficult. Like I have a family, I have a wife, and I have 2 kids that I need to consider in these decisions. So I can't be as reckless as I could when I was like young 20s or even late 20s or anything like that. But at the same time, if I know there's an out, I might just push so hard or just enough, and I might not get those breakthroughs that I would have otherwise by going all in. And you pick other people, and you can just hear like you said, you can just develop something more when you're really focused on something. I recently, for an episode that's going out based on this recording that's going out next week for me, it was with Travis Northcutt from Member Up, and the fact that he's locked down on membership sites. Another one that's coming out in a couple of weeks is Justin Ferriman, who's CEO of LearnDash. Another one that's coming out actually today, that'll be out today, is Curtis from Lifter LMS. And a lot of these guys, this is what they do, guys, gals, whoever, this is what they do. And they're able to talk about it and understand it at a level that normally you couldn't if you were just a generalist. You'd only be able to go so far. And so I'm not saying that's necessarily the right way to go, but if you want to be an expert at something, you got to be able to pick the thing that you want to be an expert at.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to that. And those are awesome examples too.
Yeah.
It's really
people.
powerful.
Great people.
I find myself preaching about this all the time too. I have a lot of younger siblings trying to pick their career path, and people at our meetup trying to build skills and decide what direction to go, and budding agencies and freelancers asking questions about just how to grow and where to take this. And it just the specialization soapbox is one of on top of all the time, all too often. I love it, but I am a huge advocate for just getting a black belt in something, your thing, be the master at something. It's incredibly powerful in so many ways. And sometimes I feel like I'm beating a dead horse about it, but it just can't, it probably can't be overstated how important that is.
It's scary because out of the gate in the beginning, and it's easy to forget this when you're further along, but you think I'm going to tell people no, like early on, like there's some points, and it might not make sense for you to try to just automatically start specializing. I mean, like, we got to be real about the fact it's taken me 4 years to get to where I am, to realize that this is the thing. And maybe I could have expedited this process, and I'm sure I'd be a heck of a lot better, assuming that I could have gone this far, like assuming that it would have worked for all those years if I would have specialized in audio sooner. But sometimes you're in phases like early on where you can't afford to say no to specific people. And it only is as you take time, and sometimes it's baby steps. And so it's like, I'm not saying you got to do this, jump all in, but at any given stage. But at the same time, like I said, there's something there. And I would agree with you. I think there is that expertise is needed. I don't know. I kind of feel like I just rambled a bit, but I'm pseudo with you. I'm pseudo with you there.
Yeah, that's how this show goes. All the time.
I tangented. I'll blame it on the cup of Joe Stout.
Yeah, that's okay. Let's talk a little bit about your podcast. You set us up with your business a little bit. You're focusing on podcasting. Those are podcasters are your customer, right?
No, not necessarily. Like for our service side, it's usually people that don't know and they want a podcast that are our customer.
Okay.
We've encountered a few existing podcasters that were like, "Oh, you do these services? Awesome. Take it. I don't want to do it anymore." And so that's been fun. But I would say more of our customer are the people that are like, "I have so much amazing stuff to share and I want to do it via audio, but I don't understand how." And I'm like, "I'm your guy. Let's make it happen."
Wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so additionally, you are podcasting yourself. And are would-be podcasters your primary audience for this podcast?
Okay. Let's frame this a little. My existing podcast right now that you were just a guest on, and you were trying to comment, and then you let me know that I have a bug in my comment system, which sucks, and I'm still really bitter about this.
I'm sorry.
It's not your fault. It's the stupid website. It's probably been like that for years, and I never even noticed.
All the comments.
All the comments. I'll just turn it off, and I won't have to worry about it. No, my personal podcast is basically my excuse to learn a lot of stuff and share it with other people, and hopefully build my association with other awesome people, so people eventually think that I'm awesome too, is really the all it comes down to. And
I love that. I can relate to that. Yeah. Why do you think I keep doing this show? I love talking to cool people like yourself on a weekly basis. That's so awesome. And Brian Richards, talked about the same exact thing. Why did I start WP Sessions? Because I wanted to learn this stuff. So
yes, absolutely, 100%. So that's what my podcast is, and it's just Jeff Large Podcast. I went through different branding iterations. I got a post on my personal site about it, and I'm sure it would do much better if I didn't have it based on my personal name. But this really is my place to just test ideas. I mentioned Sarah Dunn a second ago. Her and she had some questions for me about podcasting, and I had some questions for her about specialization. We just literally recorded our episode and pushed it out as a podcast. because I wanted to see what would happen. What would it do? Because otherwise, that conversation would have just been lost to nothing over a coffee. Whereas maybe someone else could benefit from this. So it's a place for me to learn. It's a place for me to test ideas. Um, it's a place for me to fail and not have a whole lot of worry about it. My first season, I had a theory that I could drop an entire season Netflix style and that people would consume it faster just because you look at how we binge on different series and things that come out, like Stranger Things we're watching in a night or over a weekend and all this stuff. But I was wrong. And I'm glad that I figured out that I was wrong on my episodes versus somebody else's, a client of mine's episodes. And so I can go, hey, I have tangible data that can tell you that this is a good or a bad idea. And so that's that one. And I talked to the premise of it. I can sharpen it a bit, but I'm not there quite yet. The premise of that one is just building awesome online businesses. And so sometimes it's thematic. Like this season, I'm looking at membership sites, course creation, and learning management systems for season 4. But say like season 3, that was just whoever. Like I had a variety of really amazing people, like professional public speakers, professional digital marketers, professional web developers, and different people on. Seasons 5 is we're already starting to record season 5. It's a couple months out from releasing, but that is going to be another kind of just a random gamut of people. And so that's that one. And then I have one that will be launching. Let me look at my calendar. Before the month is out, it should be live. It should be live, I think, in the next 2 weeks based on what I have, which I'm going to need to get cranking on a couple things. And that one's going to be geared specifically for people who want to learn how to podcast. And every episode will be very short. There are a couple that exist like this already, but most of them, their episodes are super long. And I don't know why you need to talk about anything for that long, especially just a single question. So we've been doing a ton of research of what are the most frequent pain points for podcasters? What kind of questions are they asking? What are their wins? And then every ep will be a single question. And I'm going to take basically like 8 minutes or less and answer the question, just because it's stuff we're doing all the time. And that will be synced up with our academy, which is for podcasters who want to learn more or do it themselves, like the DIY people within the podcast space. So it just basically our top level is Come Alive Creative is services that we do for you. Come Alive Academy are the place you can go and learn from us if you don't want to have us do your work for you.
Oh, so if someone wanted to follow that podcast, how would they find it?
It doesn't exist yet, but they could go by the end of April. They could go check out Come Alive Academy, and it's going to be on there. It's just called Podcast Bites.
Podcast Bites. Cool. Yeah. Well, I look forward to checking that out because, I mean, I try the whole podcasting thing. I give it a shot, and it's there's a lot to it. There really is.
People underestimate it for sure. Everybody understands it from a hey, record, edit, and post it, but if you want to be successful, like there's a lot more that goes into it if you ever want to hit the type of level of some of these just very like the shows that come to mind. Like it's just those aren't normal, those aren't average. It takes teams of people to create stuff like that. I mean, it's very much like making television series or anything minus the visual. So
sure,
you got to be intentional for sure.
Yeah. Once you get into producing podcasts, does it impact? Well, you probably have been into this stuff for a long time, but I wonder like how it affects how you listen to shows and the things that you hear and the critiques that you're making in your head as you're subscribing to things and consuming.
Yeah, I haven't. Truth be told, with no longer having a commute, with the fact that I work from home, I listen to podcasts much less than I used to. I unfortunately can tend to have a critical nature, and it's something that I'm trying to curve in general. Because I don't want to be like that, and so I try to go at it more charitably. But I think I pick up on stuff. I pick up more, I think, on the marketing side than I do the audio side. Like when I'm working with clients, I usually know exactly what's going on. I can listen to the audio and I can tell them, okay, look, you weren't close. I can tell that you were away from the microphone. I can tell that this is probably the type of either effects you were using or the type of equipment you were using. So there's a lot of nuances like that just doing it. I've edited, I don't even know, hundreds of episodes. I've hosted hundreds of episodes. Like you get a certain knowledge from doing it, but it's I noticed the things more in like real life. Like my wife and I, we just went out to dinner. We went on a much needed date the other day, and they got her. This is, I'm a tangent, but I don't care. She asked for medium well on her. No, did she? Yeah, she asked for medium well on her steak, and it came back like pretty well. And our server was awesome. He noticed right away. He's like, "Whoa, that isn't what you asked for." And we're like, "Hey, it's all right. Like, you're right. This is well, but it's not a big deal." And then we got greeted by like, I don't even know how many people from this restaurant of like, "Oh, we're so terribly sorry, blah, 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 blah." And I was really interested from a marketing standpoint or a system standpoint. I'm like, is this just procedure? Like when something gets screwed up, does everybody just own it? And because you know how like different restaurants will respond differently. Some people are like, deal with it. And some people are like, you know what? We can handle it this time. But these guys were very, oh, we're so terrible. It was like over the top, almost not believable. And so it's like those types of situations where I'm like, what angle are you spinning right now? Like what top down from the company do you need to do? Or Chick-fil-A, how all of them are, it's like, oh, it's my pleasure. Like the things that are instilled like that you can take for granted, but there's a rhyme and a reason, and somebody told you to do that. Or like Myers is a Midwest store that you know too. There's a long time the Myers in my area, they were forced to greet me and then to apologize if they didn't. Like even if I didn't wait, they were like, "Sorry for your wait." And I'm like, "Why are you apologizing? I didn't wait at all." It's like those kind of things that I pick up on, just like trying to do sales and trying to do marketing. That's the kind of crap that I see. It's not as much the audio.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
Random rant.
Yeah.
Things that you told me to talk about, the things I think about. That's one of them.
Yeah. I love it though. Those are fun things to just pay close attention to. We're getting close to the end of our time here, so I want to kind of like burn through some wrap up questions here. Okay. When I was on your show, you stumped me with some that were totally predictable, and I should have seen coming. I'll try and return the favor here.
All right, bring it. I'm ready.
We've learned a little bit about some of the things that you do personally, but what are some of the events that you'll be attending in the future? I'd like to know that. What's on your calendar where somebody might see you in 2018?
Okay. One that's coming up real quick, the April 21st. Wait for it. Yeah, April 21st, I'm going to be speaking at the Kent District Library 7th Annual Writers Conference.
Wow.
I'll be speaking at WordCamp Chicago on the 28th, 29th.
Ah, you picked Chicago over Detroit.
I did. This will be my third year doing Chicago, and then Detroit had to put it on the same day. Otherwise, I would have been Detroit for sure. I know. Tell those guys don't do that again.
I know. I'm pretty bummed about it.
So it's unfortunate, but I got to keep my roots in Chicago. They've been good to me. Ryan and everyone down there, good people. So I'll be at Chicago. I think this is weird because I'm on the committee to help pick the speakers, but hopefully I'll be a speaker at Grand Rapids WordCamp, unless the rest of the team vote me off the island. I don't know. Whenever Ann Arbor goes live, I'll apply to Ann Arbor again, and we'll see if you guys are kind to me. And then there's more. I'm sure there's more of it. And the easiest spot is probably just hit my website. If you go to jefflarge.com/speaking, it has most of my past and future engagements on there.
Yeah. Funny enough, I don't think we've like mentioned WordPress at all, like this whole episode.
That's the WordPress roundtable.
Yeah. And I've thought about changing the name, but anyway, do you have a favorite WordPress plugin?
I'll just give props to the podcasting ones. Blueberry has PowerPress, and that is awesome. It's a little more on the robust side. It's not as user-friendly, but it's definitely very, very thorough. And then the other one that I've come across recently, it's like dead simple, like kind of just stupid simple to use, is the Seriously Simple podcast plugin. The company rebranded themselves, so I forget it used to be, I think, just Seriously Simple Podcasting, but they switched to like Castros or something like that. We can I don't know if you got show notes. We can put the proper link in after the fact. but they do a nice clean plugin. It's the one that I'm running on my personal site. I intentionally test a lot of different things to see what's best for my clients. And so either one of those I've had really great luck with and would recommend.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any good recommendations for guests that I should have on this show in the future?
I do. Yeah, it just depends on what you want. There's a lot of people. We purposely, I work hard at networking well and trying to, I don't know, just trying to make the rounds in that sense and give back where I can. So I will happily talk about that with you afterwards. I don't know anybody off the top of my head. It kind of depends on what you need.
Cool. That sounds good. I love recommendations and introductions as well.
Can do. I thought you were going to stump me. What? That's all you got? I survived. I don't know what you're talking about.
Maybe you're just really good, or maybe I'm really nice.
Maybe. I think you're really nice. You've been too kind.
Do you have any, like, one awesome piece of advice for a would-be or a rookie or a junior podcaster?
Yeah. Keep moving forward. And what I mean by that is it doesn't matter where you are. If you're fortunate enough that you can start with like a crazy awesome audio rig, if you're just simply using the Anchor FM app off your phone and you're recording them that way, it doesn't matter where you begin, but keep learning and keep moving forward. There's a lot of argument of like the content's more important or the equipment and the sound quality is more important. I think that's a stupid argument. C.S. Lewis has a quote that I usually apply to everything. He's talking about faith and works. And when people argue from a Christian standpoint, oh, is it faith? Is it works? Well, no, that's a dumb question, because it's like a pair of scissors. Like, you need both blades in order to get it to work. And so when we look at these parallels, is it content? Is it audio quality? That's dumb. Like, it's both of them are necessary, but just do what you can with what you got. And as long as you're constantly progressing, you're going to be fine. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. I've struggled with that sort of thing myself and other people that I know doing podcasting. Some of these questions about what is actually important, what is going to make a bigger difference, and like trying to watch as we go, see how things are going, and is it stupid to just keep doing it this way, or is consistency the most thing, or should I just like try and upgrade everything that I'm doing before even bothering to throw content out to the world?
No, consistency, clarity. A lot of these things, I think you need to know who you're talking to and then talk to them and be consistent. Consistent means like you're producing consistently. Your episode lengths are consistent. Your episode topics are consistent, because I don't know. There's certain people, like, say, for example, one of my existing clients, he really, really likes Joe Rogan. Well, unfortunately for him, Joe Rogan's been in the game for, I don't even know how many years now. He's had his podcast for way longer than most of us have ever thought about podcasting. He's known in all these other mediums and platforms and has audiences that he's able to bring in. So he can have the luxury of having random guests and random conversations. Most of us, if we're going to make an impact right out of the gate, we need to have something that we're known for. And then if anything, expand out from there and just run with it. And so again, it's like, it's all about that progress, but consistency is massive within the podcast space. Because if you want to build listenership, you need to be there every time that they're looking for you. And I think that one's huge. That's a biggie. And then it's like, then the rest of the stuff is just upgrade as you can. Like you might not have all the best equipment, but maybe you invest in a nice microphone, and then 4 months down the line, you invest in a preamp to make the microphone sound even better. And then maybe you invest in an editor to help you save some time. Like whatever it is, just keep moving forward.
I like that. That's really solid advice, Jeff. Thanks. And I think even though you're the expert and I have all kinds of podcasting questions, I'm not going to abuse that right now.
You can abuse it later. You can abuse it off air or something.
Yeah, probably. Sure. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I get kind of whatever talking this much. This is a lot of talking for me. So I hope it was helpful, and I hope I didn't come off as a schmuck or something. And I definitely appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, the pleasure is all mine. I very much enjoyed this conversation, and I think people now get a glimpse of who this Jeff Large guy is.
Yeah. Hopefully I'm all right.
Yeah. Well, you are in my book.
I'll win him over. We can grab a Michigan beer together.
Yeah.
Talk about life.
Sounds good. All right. Off air we go.
Awesome. Thank you.